Well, it is the biggest toy company in the world, and its American regional hub is coming to Boston next year. We're joined now by Regional President Americas for the LEGO Group, Skip Kodak. Skip, such a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you so much.
And thanks for coming in to talk about this big move to Boston. This is exciting. LEGO's been in Enfield, Connecticut, right, for a long, long time. So why the move to Boston?
So really it comes down to two key considerations. So one is we're continuing to grow our business, and we imagine ourselves continuing to see this happening for years to come. And we've got, in our Enfield circumstance, we're kind of housed in a space that we designed initially over 50 years ago to be our manufacturing factory for the entire Americas region.
Yeah.
And over time, as things have shifted in our business model in the Americas, we've moved manufacturing from that location, but we've built it up as a sales and marketing hub. And we've reached a point where our decision was, hey, it would be great for us to go into a space where we can actually really unlock the potential of the brand by not only being in a market that's highly desired by people who do a lot of the sorts of things that we're interested in hiring people to do, but also because it's just simply bigger than where we are. There's nothing wrong with our talent pool where we're located in Connecticut. It's simply a bigger talent pool to compete in in Boston.
And people who have been by the Connecticut location know the iconic Lego bricks are there out front. I think a lot of people will be interested because they drive by under the Mass Pike and they know that you're in one of those brand new Car Gurus buildings that was built over the Mass Pike. But this is a long process. I mean, you started talking about this in what, 2020, 2021?
We were talking about what to do next, back, a couple of years ahead of then even.
And you'll be in January of 26.
In January of, I'll be in January of 26. Well, actually, we're on target to open, and we'll start first movers going into that location somewhere in Q2 of 25.
Wow. So this is, a lot of moving parts, a lot of Legos have to get put together before you get there.
And even more valuable than Lego bricks or elements, like these are our people.
Yeah. People are the main resource for a company like yours, because I think people think of, the designers of obviously the sets and the systems, but you must have so many other components of the company that you need to worry about. How is hiring going?
So we're actually off to a fantastic start. It's even better than what we had anticipated. A couple of facts. So we already have an employee base of over 200 in Boston proper. We've been working out of the office that we had initially just for our LEGO education team in North America at 501 Boylston. But we've gotten to the place already where we know we need more space, so we've just taken on an additional space right around the corner at 10 St. James that enables us to create the workforce space we need so that people aren't, so people are most able to do their daily work without a lot of interruptions and with a great experience.
So how many people did you have in Connecticut, and then ultimately how many will be in the Boston building?
Total in Connecticut on a routine year-round basis would be about 650 people, really divided into three groups. So there's a group that does you've seen the life-size models and stuff like that in different places. So our 3D team is based there. Also, our consumer services team and digital engagement team are there, and they handle, like, you're missing a part, or I'm confused by a building instruction. They take those requests both by phone, but also by email, and also now live chat as we continue to advance technology to serve people in a premium way. And those two teams are not coming to Boston. That leaves about 400 roles, as we exist currently, that are moving to Boston. And the vast majority of people have said they want to follow their roles to Boston, which is great because that gives us great continuity. And in the meantime, as we've been hiring new roles, they're all exclusively based in Boston, so it'll be a short jump from either 501 or 10 St. James to 1001 Boylston.
In your kind of business, where, I mean, you're a business, right? You're selling a product, it's a toy product, but there is so much thought and creativity that goes behind it. What kind of people do you look for when you're interviewing? What's
really important, I think, to succeed at the LEGO Group, there's really two things. One is your willingness to be mission-minded and put the group ahead of the individual. That's like a tough thing. I think of it this way. You know, when you look at an individual Lego brick, it's okay, but it's not all that exciting. The magic comes when you're combining with other bricks, and that's the way we think about how we work to succeed together and grow. The second thing that is really important is to remember that even though we're mission driven, even though we're privately held, it's a tough market out there in any industry right now, especially in discretionary consumer goods. And part of what helps us to be successful is an extraordinary technical capability that all the different professionals in our organization bring each day.
Yeah. Well, and you're going to be right there on the end of Boylston Street, right in the heart of everything. Exactly. And you have some news that you're breaking about the location today.
So breaking news about the location, actually two bits, and they go hand in glove. So one bit is we've made the decision and agreed with our friends at Samuels and Associates that we're going to take an additional floor in that building. So that will take our floor count up to 6, I believe.
Okay.
And the reason we're doing that is we've actually looked at what were our earlier estimates of the workforce size we thought we would house, and we simply come to the conclusion, even though we thought we were dreaming big, we actually didn't dream quite big enough based on where our current growth is and what that trajectory would mean for future workforce planning and space needs.
So you think you might have even more employees?
We started off thinking that, so we have 400 currently, 400 roles. And we thought maybe we would have 750 over time, like 7, 8, 9 years. We actually think that number is going to be greater than 800 now.
Interesting. Do you have other offices in the U.S.?
So we have a couple of smaller offices in the U.S. The main ones we have are out west near a lot of our entertainment partners that we have IP arrangements with.
Because you've got the Lego movie, you've got Lego Masters, all those shows.
You need to be close to the people who are kind of at the throttles and controls of that industry, for sure, in the toy business. And then we have... historically, we've had a couple of other offices, but very minor, like we've had some near customer sites. We've pulled all that back in, and as we move to Boston, the goal is to bring as much of that, except for what's happening out in California, towards Boston.
Interesting. So the majority of people will be here, and obviously closer to Europe when you're here on the East Coast.
It's easier from just from a workplace perspective. We work, as much as we work regionally, we also have plenty of stakeholders globally who both we want to influence, but also they want to
be able to get here
as well. And so both in terms of time zones, but then also in terms of ease of travel, it's a little bit simpler.
Right. And you talked about how difficult the toy industry is, how competitive all industry is. And one of the biggest stories in the U.S. economy has been the loss of manufacturing jobs over the last several decades. But you're looking to expand manufacturing here in the U.S.?
We're actually not looking to do it. We are doing it. And we've got a factory site in Richmond, Virginia that I was fortunate, along with our CEO and Chief Operating Officer, to visit when we did the groundbreaking, and have some connection with a few of the officials down there. But we're already on the ground working. We've taken up a building that for us is temporary while we're in the process of getting the land ready and then putting up the actual new factory. So we're already packing and assembling sets in the U.S. even as we speak today.
Wow, that's amazing. You had an International Day of Play. That was a big success. Who came up with that idea, and why do you think it's so important?
So let me start with why it's so important. We know that for a healthy child development cycle, once you've kind of considered really human needs, so am I safe? Do I have food and water? Am I cared for? Am I loved? Play is actually the next most important thing in early childhood development and long term for healthy, whole, well children.
Play is the work of childhood.
It is. It absolutely is. And actually play is kind of like, we talk about lifelong learners a lot. Like, lifelong learning and lifelong play actually go together, because when you're playing, the reason that's the work of a child is because they're learning. They're iterating. They're making sense of the world around them. They're relating to it.
And there are people who do jigsaw puzzles or Sudoku puzzles or build, model airplanes all their lives. Are you finding your client is getting older as they grow with the brand?
So for sure we're seeing this advent. It used to be kind of more of a niche. of adult fans of Lego, or AFOLs,
Right.
which you need to pronounce really carefully.
Yeah.
But the idea is, at this point, like, we still have that core group of people who are exceptional, like super fans.
Yes. Yeah.
And then we also have people who are just really into this notion of, I can create something. And maybe I do want the guidance of building instructions because I'm going to build this bouquet of roses set. Or maybe what I really want to do is I want to build out this scape because I'm a huge fan of, could be Star Wars.
Right.
And say, you know, from a Lego Star Wars perspective, how can I bring that universe into my personal vision for
Yes.
it and express it just for me?
Yeah, I think adults are more comfortable now with talking about the need for creative outlets.
Yep.
So what was the day of play?
So the day of play itself is actually the Lego group in concert with about 20 other NGOs and other like-minded companies joining up together and, you know, at the end of it, creating an International Day of Play that was declared by the United Nations. And so in this notion, you know, the idea is on a global basis to elevate the importance of play, even though it's kind of ceremonial, and even though it's just kind of a day, International Day of Play. The goal would be, by getting that in front of people, it causes folks to step back and say, hey, wait a minute. Like, we're doing all these things. I'm really time poor. I have to step back and think about, what do I want to prioritize in my family, for myself, if it's not really a family consideration, or for others who I relate to, right? I might not have kids, but I might be related or near to a family, and like, maybe there's a role I can play. But the whole idea essentially becomes, play is so valuable. And if we don't enable kids to play, we have this huge challenge. Kids already, like, I think the number is over 70% of kids already believe that the adults in their lives don't really think play is very important.
Yeah, that it comes to an end somehow.
And then, you know, kind of the magic of this idea of, like, just exploring the universe through play disappears when, like, you get into a corporate job or you choose a profession, and all of a sudden it's like, but the need is still there. The need to create and innovate is still there. We all kind of come into this life with this innate desire to build something and to be part of something bigger than ourselves. And
Right.
play is a really functional way of helping that to happen.
I'm curious about, we've done a lot of talking in these interview sessions about Jonathan Haidt's book, The Anxious Generation,
Yes. Yep.
and how we got to get children off of phones and away from being in front of screens all the time. And one of the things he says is children just need more free play. Are you finding, when you talk to educators or you're creating a day like that, that parents are looking for something that gets kids away from phones? And you know, have you seen sort of a corresponding sale of Legos with that movement of trying to not have everything be digital?
So, I joined the company in 2002, and we had a phrase that we've been using now for 22 years. Every year we say, okay, kids are getting older younger.
Yes, that's
Right?
sad.
And so it's screen time, it's other activities. But the reality is, you know, for us, when we talk to, whether it's educators, researchers in the early childhood development space, our Lego Foundation does a lot of partnerships on a global basis to do a lot of primary research in this space. This isn't so much about avoiding something as it is about making sure, it's kind of like thinking about diet. Like, all things in moderation can be okay.
Right, but you want to do the good things.
But having the balance, because the balance is what allows you to sustain that habit, having the balance where play is present, even if it's in short doses but on a routine basis, is actually one of the more important features of all of this.
And every pediatrician will tell you the blocks. That's where you want to expose small children. You have this creative team, and now you have a Jaws Lego set.
Yes.
And that came out of that creative team, which was from a fan.
Yep.
So how do ideas like that percolate up to you?
Well, it's funny you should say ideas. So Lego Ideas is actually the kind of the branding we put around these sets, and the Jaws celebration set is exactly an outcome of that. And so we invite our fans through the Lego Ideas crowdsourcing platform to put forward and basically nominate themselves or somebody else for a product that's been developed. And we give some guidance as to, like, using current elements and bricks and all of that, because we want people to have, participate in a way that could result in a fan seeing their set come to life and go out into the marketplace. And the Lego Ideas sets have given us access to, we were talking about adult fans of Lego, but the creativity that exists in the community around the Lego brand is just incredible. And sometimes we even see our fans doing things that we're like, that's brilliant.
That's incredible.
Why aren't we,
why didn't we think of that?
Exactly. But that's the beauty of having a brand like we do, which is kind of open-ended and really relating to play and iterating. Like somebody who's really curious and has time that they're willing to put, like they'll always get better, right?
Yes.
Adam, it's just this notion of Malcolm Gladwell and 10,000 repetitions, right? So having that input, that stimulus actually fosters creativity for our designers. It actually helps us think more widely in terms of ways that we can engage in socially relevant moments and culturally relevant moments.
Right, and you have the Discovery Center in Somerville.
Yep.
And Legoland in New York. Any plans for more experiences like that? They're kind of like little mini Disney worlds, right?
It's fantastic that you note those. So this is an example of us working with a partner, Merlin Entertainments.
Right.
Very close partner that we've worked with since 2003 on all of the Legoland development that's happened. They are just experts in making great experiential sorts of environments. So whether it's indoors, like in Somerville, or whether it's out of doors, like the Legoland in New York, and also down in Florida, and also out in California, having these spaces that create access to the brand in a different way, and just kind of, again, it's this notion of almost like unfolding or unlocking somebody's potential by just showing them, like, anyone could do this, but here it is, you can see it, and then someone goes like, I get it now. Or I can see something that I'm really into.
And it creates a sense of community.
And it's a huge way to create community.
As well.
And our partners at Merlin are just really, really good in this space. And they bring that element, and we can bring kind of the branding and, the here's what's next, so that they're constantly having kind of this merger of fresh new content and experience with being able to provide a reason for people to come back time and time again.
Yeah, they're fantastic places to bring kids when you've done so much else. Legoland is a great option. Climate change is always a topic people are going to be exploring over the next several decades. And, Lego Group, I'm sure that there are environmental concerns about the plastic that the bricks are made of, but as the Lego Group, what are your green initiatives moving forward? So
we've been pretty, I wouldn't say we've been bold in our ambitions. I think we're really focused, though, on this notion of achieving net zero carbon emissions from all of our operations by the time we get to 2050.
And that's doable?
And that is doable. It's going to be doable in ways, though, that we don't fully understand yet. Let me give you an example. We were pursuing an opportunity around using recycled plastic, particularly what you find in beverage bottles at this point. And we were kind of working through what is this PET recycling loop? And we were developing the material, making sure we could use our existing molding machines to operate it and all of these things. Checking it for quality, because that's, of course, safety is the biggest thing, and coming through with quality matters with our brand. What we learned, though, is that actually created more carbon emissions. And so
sometimes this is the case.
So it was like, so back to this notion of iterating in place. So like, that doesn't help us achieve our goal. That's going to make things worse. So we had to back up. We had to publicly announce, after we had done something and we said, hey, this could be a big deal. We had to go back and say, actually, no, not going to be a big deal. And our pivot from that was the realization that there is now more and more recycled ABS plastic available, which is the core ingredient for most Lego system bricks and Duplo bricks. And what we're doing is we're essentially working to a place where we will use increasing doses of that plastic recycled material. Same quality, gives us all the same play properties and everything else we need to have for the brand, and safety for our consumers and for our shoppers, so that they can be confident in that. But then over time, we'll be able to use less and less virgin material.
So it would be primarily recycled.
Yeah, that's the first move. Now, the second move is basically buying time, because you're still kind of creating a cycle of carbon emissions. So we're hopeful, and this is the part when you say, is it doable? Yes, it is, but in ways we don't know yet. We still really are focused on, ultimately, is there a material that we can move to and create a market for, because we're willing to pay a premium for the recycled content compared to virgin. To help create this market, we're going to need other companies to also be interested in creating markets like this. And so our step into it is basically saying we're going to invest in sustainability, not just in terms of operating on a carbon neutral basis, which we currently do in all of our manufacturing globally, but we're going to invest in materials as well. And we're going to be the ones who kind of just reduce our profitability to enable us to develop a market, because we believe over time we have to be in a position where people don't need to be concerned about the plastic they see.
So you're hoping that your initiative will incentivize other companies that might be creating these new materials to hurry up and make those Legos
and
of
to
the future.
increase the size of the market so that suppliers will be more interested, not only in kind of how do we generate more stock that's recycled for this mass balancing we're doing, but ultimately to develop a material that we can go to that is truly fully sustainable.
And it's interesting that it's going to have to come from industry for that to happen, and these kinds of programs.
I think so.
You have a lot of licensing deals. You know, people think of their Star Wars Lego sets or whatever movie you can think of. Anything that fans don't know about or can't get enough of? I mean, what is the most popular product right now in the Lego world?
So the most popular product in the Lego world, we have ranges, and this is about appealing to a wide range of fan passions. But like our most popular products right now are really built around moments where people are taking time with themselves. So you know, we've had a lot of success with what we call our botanicals line. So all sorts of different plants, flowers, and items like that. And it's opened up a whole new audience for us, which has been great, because that's additive to our business and allows us to better fulfill our mission, because then we can invest more in other spaces, sustainability being one of them. But from a kind of an entertainment property perspective, Lego Star Wars is always a huge franchise for us. So our partners at Disney are a big consideration in everything we do. We've also, to your point, with our partners from Warner, continued to be able to grow our Lego Harry Potter business, both with some product innovation, but also continuing to kind of mine the stories that are already out there for classic ideas and to bring those into being.
And just for the layman, you know, how do those deals work? If you form a partnership for, did you say it was Warner that produced Harry Potter? Is that who it is?
They
that
own
the company?
The property, yep.
So when you talk to that, it's just a set number of years that you're allowed to use the Harry Potter name, and then they have to be renewed over time.
Yes, they're renewed over time. They're not especially short or long-term arrangements, but what that does is it also allows us to reflect on the different partners we have, and you know, we make adjustments in our partnerships based on what the opportunities are we see with other properties. So whether it's a preschool property that might be just kind of on its own with somebody, or whether it's a company like Disney or Universal or Warner, who has many different properties.
Right, because different sets obviously are going to come in and out of vogue. Are you amazed how valuable some of the sets are? And the websites that deal in them, people bidding for them?
It's an interesting circumstance. I was first exposed to this before I even worked for the company, when my oldest daughter was probably 12 years old. My wife had found out that Lego Harry Potter sets, the initial year that they were launched, was like, that was the thing to get. And she's like, I got to find it. And she came back, she said, well, I found it, and you know, it's like 3 times or whatever the regular retail is. So that was my first exposure. I was like, wow, that's weird.
Wow, it's like a commodity.
What's up with that, right? But you know, really what happens is we have fans who are so passionate about certain of these entertainment properties, or they're really into specific sets based on the bricks or the brick colors or the brick shapes in that set, that they want to collect a bunch of those, and then they harvest that to make their own creations. And then there are people who do And there's articles and videos on this topic all over the place. The Wall Street Journal seems to have an annual event where they talk about your return on a Lego collection can be greater than the S&P 500.
That's amazing.
So it's just, it's not something we set out to do. And honestly, it's kind of it's a bit of a two-edged sort of situation, because it's not our goal at any point for people to feel like they can't access the Lego sets they want. So when you see these, really high prices on eBay as an item has left,
it's not something that you are driving.
And then no, it's not. And then the other side of it is, there is something about that feeling that, wow, like what I have could be worth something. And so, for collectors who are out there, it's a legitimate hobby that they have.
Yeah. They buy them just to have them.
They buy one to build, and they might buy one to hold on to and see, hey, is this one of those sets that is worth a lot more at some future date?
Interesting, different kind of investment.
Yep.
Speaking of superfans, the Summer Olympics just wrapped up, and one of our Olympians who was on the rugby team in an interview mentioned that when she wasn't playing rugby, she's obsessed with doing Legos, and so you connected with her. Tell that story.
I mean, I'm not personally directly involved in this, but of course, not only was our communications team very aware of this, but I started to get messages in our internal Teams chat from people.
So this is about Summer Sullivan.
Sammy Sullivan.
I'm sorry, Sammy Sullivan.
And so Sammy's message got out there, and first was one that was a little more about Lego building, and then when they won the medal, I need something to hang my medal on, and wouldn't it be great? And she's, I think, if I remember correctly, in her Instagram story, she had herself standing near the Eiffel Tower. Wouldn't this be a good idea? We happen to have a set that's designed for our adult enthusiasts where they, thousands of pieces. It's a big process, multiple boxes.
Oh, yes. So you sent her like a huge Eiffel Tower set that she can build.
Exactly.
Right, as a gift.
And she started building it. She actually, it's wonderful because, there's, other than the gift, there's just kind of a shared interest around building.
Sure.
And her passion for that. And like that situation is a little uncommon, but it's not uncommon to see, you see different people who might surprise you with their interest in different things. And of course, we pay a lot of attention to anybody who's interested in Lego products.
Of course.
Because, if they have a big following, then that also could be influencing people who might not ordinarily think about Lego building.
Sure.
As an option to satisfy that need we were talking about regular play.
And there you have a type A athlete who's clearly very driven, but to relax, building Legos must completely take her mind off of her sport. So,
she's quite good at it. And she's already, like, before the Olympics, like, she was already a super fan.
Right. She did it on her own.
She didn't have kind of the breadth of platform that that particular moment has given her. And so for sure, that's an impact. And it's also, I'm really hopeful that, we can continue to partner with Sammy around her love for building. And eager that we hopefully find ways that are within the boundaries for what she's interested in, because ultimately it's her example is actually a really great one. The surprising thing is you learn about people when they have the opportunity to share something with you.
And so you can imagine a lot of little girl athletes thinking, oh, I didn't think of that. I might love Lego building if it just wasn't something they did. And now you have a new partnership with Nike, so your two massive brands coming together. What is that going to look like?
Well, I'm not sure exactly what it's going to look like. What I do know is it's going to be multiple years, which makes sense because it takes some time to both build out kind of the narrative and the messaging. But we actually, you could argue we've started already because Nike was one of the key partners for the International Day of Play.
Right, so is it going to be like a Nike sneaker you build?
Well, see, that's the thing. We don't know what, that's certainly, there's loads of possibilities.
I'm full of ideas here, Skep.
No, but that's great. And actually, we used a few of them when we were announcing the partnership. We actually used the swoosh as a smile on a minifigure space to kind of like, as a nod to that. But for sure, there's something around shoes, there's something around athletics. And again, it's the passion around active play and sports and just kind of how that reaches across audiences that, again, might not ordinarily think of Lego products in their daily lives. They're kind of more attuned to the Nike brand. Alternatively, if they're really attuned to the Lego brand, they might not be thinking as much around Nike products. So like
That's
there's
true.
a benefit for
There's
both
a symmetry
companies,
there.
and we provide complementary sort of play experiences. Ours is probably not, we wouldn't probably call Lego building a super hyperactive physical sort of activity. But it in balance with physical activity, having this particular activity and playing, these two things, this comes back to that kind of healthy
they might
whole
come
person.
together.
They come together really nicely.
Well, as you say, thinking about young people building perhaps sometimes together, do you think of yourself as sort of the opposite of a video game, right? That kids aren't, not to disparage video games, but I mean, they have their place, but for building and thinking, the Lego is so much more physical for the brain.
So it's definitely something about tactile play.
Yeah.
That is unique and different and separates kind of the physical Lego building play experience that people have. I would tell you that video games, though, there's nothing inherently awful about video games. In fact, gaming is a huge passion that we tap into pretty routinely. We have ranges with different gaming partners, and that enables us to, again, reach audiences that might not ordinarily be thinking about physical toys. The other side of it is it creates the opportunity for fans of those games to celebrate their fandom in a different way. And when we think about video games, one of the things we think about at the Lego Group is like, who are partners who are really excellent in this space? And so we partnered with Epic Games with the Lego Fortnite experience. And that's actually turned into exposing kind of an interesting number of already pre-existing Lego fans who are also Fortnite fans, but a whole world of
So they
Fortnite
build
fans.
those physical worlds
Exactly.
that you see in the games.
You get the experience of literally building, and then also kind of, it's a creator game, but building and then also taking apart or disassembling different structures. And when you're building in that space, it's the same process as doing it physically. You're just not putting your fingers on it. You're using keyboard and mouse, or depending on what device you're playing on, maybe screen, to help you do the same sorts of skills. So the skills you're working on, the cognitive and the emotional skills and the social skills you're working on, are just as much in play through a different media. But that's, coming back to this idea, video games aren't necessarily, they're not evil. But like anything,
it's just
you're
a
doing
different
the
skill
same
set.
thing all the time, you might find yourself in a space where you look at it and you're like, is that always the best thing to do?
Now that you're moving to Boston, are you thinking about a Boston Lego bunch of sets, a Fenway Park, a Gillette Stadium, a State House? Are you going to launch a Boston line? We'll have to think about it.
It's a great thing. It's a great thing to consider. For
Paul
sure,
Revere's house?
Yeah, for sure. For sure, we need to be able to celebrate and be relevant here in what will in the future be our kind of home city from an America's perspective. So for sure, that's something that comes into play. I also think that there's, as we think about it, we've got opportunities to celebrate being relevant in all sorts of different ways. But certainly Boston sets would be one of those, and we find ourselves in, I'm both humbled and really proud of the fact that we have all sorts of partners who are seeking us out. And even as we're not really here yet, really interested in trying to get together and figure out, are there things we can do that help us to unlock more passion for the Lego brand, and at the same time kind of help us integrate in the community in a social and in a relevant way that really celebrates us coming to Boston. Because again, we're super excited about what's to come. We're very excited and proud of what we've accomplished so far, but we know that even more is to come in the future.
Right. So Lego will be right on the end of Boylston Street with hundreds and hundreds of employees, hopefully someday thousands. And welcome to Boston.
Thank
to
you so
Lego.
much.
Skip Kodak, president of Lego for the Americas. We appreciate it. Thank you.